It's such a pleasure to speak to you today. You know, it's so wonderful to get to know you through our Rotary Club of Kathmandu Midtown. And with your wonderful background, you were born in the remote rural area of Gulmi, you said, and your early education was homeschooling, Banaras and Tansen. And then your higher education was in the United States of America. And you served in the UN, UNICEF, in Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Haiti, and then New York City. So, and mainly you're passionate about peace, human rights, human development. So how fortunate that I'm able to have a dialogue with you today and to ask you a few questions. I just want to tell you, you know, coming back to Nepal has been a wonderful experience actually again. And as a banker back in the US, now I'm more of a social worker with Rotary and then with the Art of Living Foundation. So right now we are doing a lot of trauma relief as well as stress management and leadership in time of uncertainty, you know, inspiring leadership roles in terms of uncertainty right now with the lockdown situation. So we've been doing a lot of Zoom sessions with corporate houses. In the past 3 years in Nepal itself, we've worked with 85 institutions. And with your leadership role at the UN and many other multinational corporations, just wanted to find out a few words from you that would inspire the institutions, you know, professionals in Nepal itself on leadership roles, especially during uncertain times. What are some of your key messages that you would like to share?
Well, that's a tall question. I don't know that I have got any good answer. I would say that leaders in such difficult, uncertain, frightening kind of situation, I think need to be giving to their people both a message of hope and a message that is, of course, by hope, I don't mean like Mr. Trump said, oh, everything is fine, this virus will go away and we are the greatest. No, not that kind of nonsense, but a hope based on, look, we have faced such crisis before. This is the biggest crisis, the coronavirus crisis, that we have experienced in our lifetimes. The last time we had a crisis of this magnitude was during the Spanish flu, which killed many more people. This virus is as deadly as that Spanish flu, but I'm pretty sure that its casualties will be much less than the Spanish flu, because today we have communications capacity, the scientific invention capacities that did not exist at the time of during the First World War and the Spanish flu. So I think this is a world in which we have tremendous talent, and that with that talent, with these technologies that we have today, we can solve many problems. What took in those days a generation to find answers, we can find those answers in 1 decade, less than a decade. A vaccine normally takes, as you know, many, many years to develop. This is a vaccine for this flu is going to be developed within less than 2 years. So we are lucky. We are in a situation where, yes, there will be bigger and bigger problems in the future, but we will also find faster and better solutions. So we can be optimistic that human ingenuity has reached a new level that was not possible before. But then I think we also need to tell people to live a more balanced life, not to be overly extravagant in things, to learn to, I think the nature, this virus is teaching us, treat your environment better. You're destroying, to be able to see all the Himalayas cleanly from Kathmandu. Well, I don't think the younger generation has seen them as clearly as now. I mean, you and I may have seen them in our childhood, but Himalayas have never been so clear. I don't think many young people have ever seen Himalayas from Kathmandu. And so in order to live in modern times of plenty, one has to also learn to live with in a minimalist life. That an overly consumption-oriented society is not going to be viable, and it is not necessary. To be happy does not mean you need to be profligate in lots of luxuries. One can live a simple life and yet be happy, because happiness ultimately comes not from a lot of gadgets and consumer goods that you have. If the husband and wife, brothers and sisters quarrel all the time, no amount of wealth is going to give them happiness. No amount of luxury cars is going to give them happiness. You get along with your neighbor, you get along with your family members, you get happiness even in a simple life. So I think leaders of the future are going to have to lead by example themselves, and also by saying that you need to think about the greater good of humanity, especially if you are successful. I admire Bill Gates. There are many billionaires in the world. There are richer people than him now. But there you have a person who lives quite a reasonably sensible, simple life, but is able to contribute a lot. Warren Buffett, look at his life. He drives an old car, and he wears pretty simple clothes. He seems to be happy, and I think he's making a lot of other people happy. So I think leadership means not just bragging, not being self-centered, sharing your wealth, sharing your wisdom. I think that's what I try to convey to my children. I'll tell you, my granddaughter is now, from her little piggy bank, every year she chooses a charity to contribute to. Last year she contributed to WWF, World Wildlife Fund. This year she contributed to WHO, because she has been reading about World Health Organization, and especially when she heard Donald Trump kind of threatening WHO, she asked me, "Grandpa, what is WHO like?" And I would tell her what it does, the good thing it does. I say, okay, I'm going to make my contribution to WHO. Okay, bravo, granddaughter. So I think we, the older people, need to be the role models for young people, inspiring them to learn about the world and be simple, and don't feel deprived that you don't have the latest gadgets, you don't have the latest car, you don't have the latest this, and you don't have the latest that. But of course, that is possible only if your basic needs are fulfilled. If your very basic needs for food and water and shelter are not fulfilled, all of this becomes theoretical talk. So the number one priority for any leader has to be, do the people in his or her country or community have the basics? If they don't have the basics, nothing else counts. None of the other things are of any importance. So we, the leaders, have to do what we can do to ensure the basic. But once you have the basics, then learn to live a simple life, be generous, be caring, be understanding, be appreciating, be supportive. I think that is the required, and I think we should try to do that at home, in our community, and whoever can, to the extent possible, contribute to the larger humanity. But don't feel guilty if you cannot contribute to humanity. You can do perfectly well if you are helping your neighborhood, because leaders don't have to be global leaders. You can be a leader in your family, in your community. So there are leaderships at different levels, and one can find room for leadership in your school classroom, in your church or temple, wherever you go to. So that would be generally my message to young people.
Very good. Thank you so much. And one question I'd like to pose to you: in the current situation, I mean, like now, working with corporations, organizations in Nepal, people are not used to working from home, and obviously the lockdown has extended beyond a month now, and management team leaders are having this challenge of inspiring their colleagues, let's say their employees working from home, putting a structure. So having worked in such a big organization like the UN, being a leader over there, how would you then, like this is uncertain time, people weren't prepared for this at all, COVID and then the lockdown. So what would be few inspirational things you would tell leaders so that they can pass on to their employees working from home? You know, the uncertainty is already there regarding the job, and now they have to, you know, juggle the schedule, time management and all of this, staying at home. And it's really, again, inspiring to hear about your grandchild, you know, with the piggy bank, WHO, and she's gifting her piggy bank money, all because of your leadership and, you know, guiding her that way. But again, coming back to the individualistic, you know, how do you manage time? How do you as a leader help these individuals to do better time management and keep the focus on the job, rather than getting distracted with all the news that's infiltrating through your iPhones and your computer and your TV? Collectively, the institutions are already dipping into their CSR budget and they are giving to COVID fund. That I know, you know, and they're teaming up with other organizations. So that's happening. But at the ground level, working from home seems to have been quite a challenge for most.
Yeah, I think these are, as you said, uncertain times, and they have come very suddenly. So we have not had the time to prepare for it. And I would say that at this time, the challenge is for many leaders. Leaders don't have magic. They don't have solutions. They have to learn some of these solutions. And sometimes you may find that actually you can learn from your employees. Some of the employees may be smarter than you are in using these modern technologies. So I would say that the leaders have to be very humble and encourage your employees. It may not be hierarchical, that the director knows more than the section officer, or the section officer knows more than the program officer. That the best ideas, the best knowledge, the best approaches may come from your lowly employees. So be very open-minded to learn, leaders to learn, not only to teach, because this situation has come about without giving us the chance to prepare. Leaders have not had the time to prepare themselves to lead. We are all learning on the job. So I think one thing is there are no ready-made answers. Leaders have to be very open-minded, very flexible. If they have had a certain style of leading, that style may no longer work. So I think great flexibility, learning from others, even from your humble employees. And I think there will be a lot of trial and errors. There will be many mistakes we will make because, as you said, we have never experienced anything like this. The transition from working from office to working from home is a revolutionary transition. Now, normally it requires decades for us to prepare for such a big change, but we are having to do that in a few months, few weeks. So there will be lots of risk of making mistakes, which we will, but don't be afraid of making mistakes. We learn from them and we improve. I think the other thing that we need to be, as you mentioned, we are now bombarded with so much information overload, including fake news, that it is easy to be completely distracted, to be fooled, to be distracted by what seems like, oh, there is a solution. And guess what? That is not the solution. You know, hydrochloroquine, as Mr. Trump thought was a solution, is not a solution. So don't jump to conclusions too quickly. Be humble, learn, bring out the best from your employees, including the lowliest ones and the younger ones, because the younger ones are more adaptable. Most leaders are older ones. So I think this is a particular challenge in countries like ours, where leaders are usually, septuagenarians and the very old people who are not adapted to these things. So I think those countries that have, look at Finland. Their prime minister is in her early 30s. Half the ministers are in their 30s and 40s. Guess what? Finland is going to be able to adapt much quicker than India or Nepal or America. So trust young people, empower them more, learn from them more. So if leaders fail to do that, then I think their old model of success will not work. So this is a time for humble leadership, a leadership that is very open-minded, and to the general public. I think our message has to be, you are flooded with information, be careful. Don't accept, find yourself not to immerse yourself with overload of information, how to be selective. You only take information from or verify from authoritative sources, even though you are open to learning from, etc. I think those are going to be very necessary. Otherwise, this is too short a time for us to adapt to this new style of working. But guess what? We will adapt to this new style of working. I would say that even after coronavirus, as you and I were talking earlier, in the future, even when we have face-to-face meeting of the Rotary Club, we'll still have a Zoom connection, so people from elsewhere can participate. So there will be a new style of management, a new style of leadership that will emerge. And what exactly it will be like, we don't know. We'll find out together.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kul, and for your valuable time and your input. This will be great. So thank you so much again for today's session.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.